You broke them! Now watch what happens.
I step forward, eyes locked on yours, voice low and deliberate. You think silence is weakness, don't you? You mistake stillness for submission. You see someone who doesn't react, who doesn't raise their voice, who doesn't match your chaos with chaos, and you believe you won. You think you've broken them. You think they're afraid. Let me tell you something that will haunt you when it's too late to matter. The quiet ones aren't quiet because they're weak. They're quiet because they've already calculated 1,000 different ways this could end, and they're giving you the mercy of choosing a different path. They're quiet because they understand something you don't. That real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need validation from every room it enters. But there comes a moment, a very specific, irreversible moment, when that silence transforms into something else entirely. When the person you thought you knew, the person you thought you controlled, stops being quiet. And when that happens, everything you thought you understood about them becomes obsolete. I'm going to tell you the 7 signs that you've pushed someone too far. Not so you can manipulate them back into submission. Not so you can gaslight them into thinking they're overreacting. But so you understand the gravity of what you've done. So you recognize the threshold you crossed. Sign 1. The complete emotional withdrawal. You notice it first in their eyes, where there used to be hurt, frustration, maybe even anger. Now there's nothing. They look at you the way you'd look at a stranger on the subway. Polite distance. Complete detachment. This isn't the silent treatment designed to punish you. This is different. This is preservation. When quiet people stop being quiet, they don't suddenly become loud. That's what you don't understand. First, they become absent. They withdraw every piece of themselves they ever invested in you. Every hope, every expectation, every fragment of care they once offered freely. They don't argue with you anymore because you become irrelevant to their peace. You think you've won because there's no fight, but you've actually lost something you can never reclaim. Access to who they really are. They've closed a door you didn't even know existed, and there's no key that will open it again. Sign 2. The surgical precision of their boundaries. Suddenly, the person who used to accommodate your chaos, who used to bend themselves into uncomfortable shapes to maintain peace, becomes immovable, not aggressive, not hostile, just absolutely, unmistakably clear. They stop explaining themselves to you. They stop justifying their decisions. They don't owe you their reasoning anymore. And they finally accepted that. They used to say, "I'm sorry, but I can't." They now simply say no. One word. Complete sentence. This terrifies you because you've lost your leverage. You can't guilt them. You can't manipulate them with the promise of your approval. You can't dangle your affection like a reward for good behavior. They've discovered something revolutionary. They don't need you to validate their worth. The quiet ones spend years, sometimes decades, absorbing everyone else's needs, everyone else's emotions, everyone else's problems. They make themselves smaller so others can feel bigger. But there's a breaking point where they realize that sacrifice isn't noble. It's self-destruction. And when they stop sacrificing themselves at the altar of your comfort, you call them selfish. You call them cold. You call them changed. You're right about one thing. They've changed. They've remembered who they were before you convinced them that their silence was a service they owed you. Sign 3. The strategic revelation of their observations. Here's what you never considered. Quiet people observe everything. While you were talking, they were listening. While you were performing, they were analyzing. While you were lying, they were cataloging every inconsistency. They know things about you that you don't know about yourself. They've watched you long enough to see the patterns you're blind to, the contradictions between what you say and what you do, the way you treat people when you think no one important is watching, the insecurities you disguise as confidence, the cruelty you rationalize as honesty. And they've kept this information to themselves because they're not cruel. They don't weaponize knowledge the way you do. But when you push them too far, when you back them into a corner and force them to defend themselves, they'll show you exactly what they've seen. Not with emotion, not with anger, with a cold, undeniable clarity of someone who's been taking notes the entire time. This is when you realize that their silence was never ignorance. It was choice. It was patience. It was them giving you the opportunity to be better without having to expose who you really are. And you mistook their grace for stupidity. Sign 4. The reclamation of their energy. You know what happens when quiet people stop pouring their energy into managing your emotions, protecting your ego, and maintaining your comfort? They redirect that energy toward themselves, toward their goals, toward their healing, toward the people who actually deserve it. They start saying yes to opportunities they used to decline because they were too busy being your emotional support system. They invest in friendships they neglected because you demanded all their attention. They pursue dreams they postponed because you convinced them your needs were more urgent. And suddenly they're thriving. Not because they're trying to prove something to you. Not because they're seeking revenge. But because they've stopped allowing you to be a drain on their life force. They've unplugged from your chaos. And the energy they conserve is astronomical. This is what really bothers you, isn't it? Not that they left. Not that they set boundaries. But that they're actually better without you. That their life improves in your absence. That they're lighter, freer, more authentically themselves than they ever were in your presence. I pause, letting the weight of those words settle before my voice rises with intensity. Now let me ask you something. If this resonates with you, if you've been the quiet one who's finally finding their voice, or if you recognize these signs in someone you pushed too far, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Not for me. For yourself. As a commitment that you're done being silent about your worth. Drop a comment below and tell me which sign hit you hardest. Which one made you realize it's time to stop accommodating people who mistake your peace for weakness. And subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community of people who refuse to shrink themselves anymore. People who understand that knowing when to stop being quiet isn't aggression. It's survival. Do that now. I'll wait. I cross my arms, voice dropping back to that intense, measured tone. Sign 5. The activation of their autonomy. For so long they consulted you. They considered your opinion. They factored your feelings into their decisions. Not because they needed your permission, but because they valued connection. They believed in partnership. They thought your input mattered because the relationship mattered. But when you pushed them too far, they stopped asking. They stopped explaining. They stopped seeking your blessing or your understanding. They make decisions that affect their own life with complete autonomy. And you're not even part of the equation anymore. This isn't rebellion. This is liberation. They're not doing things to spite you or to hurt you. They're doing things as if you don't exist, because in the architecture of their new life, you don't. You're not a factor. You're not a consideration. You're history. You accuse them of being cold, calculated, ruthless even. But there's nothing ruthless about protecting yourself from someone who's repeatedly demonstrated they don't have your best interests at heart. There's nothing cold about prioritizing your well-being over someone else's comfort. There's nothing calculated about finally putting yourself first after years of making yourself last. Sign 6. The eloquence of their truth. This is perhaps the most devastating sign of all. The quiet person who never defended themselves, who absorbed your criticisms, who accepted blame to keep the peace, suddenly finds their voice. And when they speak, it's not with the stammering uncertainty of someone unsure of their reality. It's with the devastating clarity of someone who spent years thinking about exactly what they needed to say. They don't yell. They don't cry. They don't perform emotion to make you understand. They simply state facts. And facts, delivered without emotion, are irrefutable. They tell you precisely what you did, when you did it, how it affected them, and why they're done. No room for interpretation. No space for your gaslighting. No tolerance for your deflection. You try your usual tactics. You tell them they're too sensitive. You accuse them of holding grudges. You claim they're attacking you. But none of it works anymore because they're not seeking your validation. They're not trying to make you understand. They're not even trying to change you. They're simply informing you of the consequences of your own actions. This is when you realize that their silence was a gift you never appreciated. Because their voice, when they finally use it, is a mirror you're not prepared to look into. Sign 7. The finality of their peace. The last sign, the one that confirms you've lost them completely, is this. They find peace in your absence. Not the bitter peace of resentment. Not the temporary peace of avoidance. But genuine, deep, sustainable peace. They sleep better. They laugh more. They feel lighter. The anxiety that used to live in their chest, the tension that used to occupy their shoulders, the exhaustion that used to cloud their mind. Gone. Because you're gone. Because the chaos you brought into their life has been removed, and they can finally breathe. This is the sign that there's no going back. Because once someone discovers what peace feels like without you, they'll protect it with everything they have. They've tasted freedom from your manipulation, your mood swings, your demands, your criticism, your control. And they'll never voluntarily return to that prison. You might try to come back. You might apologize, make promises, tell them you changed. But they know something now that they didn't know before. They don't need you to be happy. In fact, they're happier without you. And no amount of your charm or your tears or your manipulation will ever be more compelling than the peace they found in your absence. I lean in closer, voice intense and unwavering. So here's what I need you to understand. Whether you're the quiet one who's finally finding their voice, or whether you're the person who pushed someone to this point, if you're the quiet one, your silence is not your weakness. It's your strategy. It's your discernment. It's your power held in reserve. But there comes a time when silence becomes complicity in your own suffering. There comes a time when keeping the peace means sacrificing your peace. And that's when you speak, not to hurt anyone, not to get revenge, but to reclaim yourself. Your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. Your peace matters more than anyone's comfort with your submission. And if speaking your truth, if defending your dignity, if protecting your energy makes you the villain in someone else's story, that's a role you have to be willing to accept. Because the alternative, remaining silent while you disappear, is not an option anymore. Stop being quiet when your soul is screaming for you to speak. If you're the person who pushed someone too far, understand that you're not the victim of their transformation. You're the catalyst. You created this. Every boundary they set is a consequence of a boundary you violated. Every door they closed is one you kicked down repeatedly. Every piece of themselves they took back is a piece you took for granted. You can't undo this. You can't manipulate them back into silence. You can't guilt them into giving you another chance. The only thing you can do is learn from this. Recognize these signs in your current relationships before you cross that irreversible threshold. Understand that people's patience is not infinite. Their grace is not guaranteed. Their presence is not permanent. Treat people like they're disposable, and they'll dispose of you. It's that simple. A straighten up, voice rising with power. This is your moment, right now. If you felt every word of this in your bones, if you're that person who's been too quiet for too long, or if you recognize that you need to change how you treat the quiet people in your life, I need you to take action. Subscribe to this channel right now. Join this community of people who are reclaiming their power, their voice, their peace. Comment below and tell me, what's the one thing you're done being quiet about? What boundary are you finally going to set? What truth are you finally going to speak? And share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been silent too long. Someone who mistakes their patience for weakness. Do it now. My voice drops to a whisper, but it carries the weight of absolute conviction. The world needs your voice, not the version of you that's been edited for someone else's comfort. Not the watered-down, palatable, convenient version. The real you. The you that's been waiting in silence for permission to exist fully. This is that permission. Stop being quiet. Not to become loud. Not to become cruel. But to become whole. To become honest. To become free. Because the quiet ones who stop being quiet don't become the villains. They become the ones who got away. The ones who chose themselves. The ones who understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, I'm done. And when you say it, when you finally say it, mean it. Because your peace depends on it. Your future depends on it. Your very soul depends on it. Now go, speak, set boundaries, reclaim yourself, and never ever apologize for refusing to stay silent about your own suffering. I step back, eyes still locked on yours. That's all I have for you today. The truth, raw and unfiltered. What you do with it is up to you.